guys, great job with playing hide and seek. Good job to all the hiders, good job to all the seekers. Hannah here, and I hope that now you've played hide and go seek, you are ready to talk about some of the things that we have coming up in this new series called Lost and Found. So I want to know if maybe you have ever lost something. Maybe you lost your favorite stuffed animal. I wonder if anyone here has lost a face mask since the pandemic started, or maybe you yourself got lost. So I would love for you to break out into your small groups right now and talk about this question. If you could get lost anywhere in the world, where would you get lost? I think for me personally, if I could get lost anywhere in the world, I would get lost in maybe the world's largest Starbucks, or maybe I'd get lost at the zoo because I really love animals. Maybe I would get lost in a chocolate factory because I really love to eat chocolate. A lot of these have to do with, chocolate, coffee, and animals. So there you go. We know how it can be really actually scary and frustrating to get lost in a place that you're not aware of. You might be driving around, you don't know where you are. I know recently, before the pandemic, I was in an airport in Toronto, much bigger than, of course, the Charlottetown airport, and I got lost just trying to find my way to security. It can be really scary and really frustrating to get lost. So for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be talking at youth group about things that are lost and how they can get found. And we're not just going to be talking about physical things that we lose, but we're going to be talking also about how people might become spiritually lost. And what we mean when we say spiritually lost is this idea that maybe when you think about your relationship with God, you think, I don't really know where I am. I feel maybe frustrated or disoriented, or I feel scared about it, or I'm confused. So we're going to take a minute and pause and talk about this question. What are some of the reasons that a follower of Jesus might wander away from God? So sometimes we don't always like to talk about moments where we get lost or we feel lost in our faith journey. But we all have moments like that. I can remember actually being in junior high, very similar to you guys, and I had a crush on this guy, and he wasn't really a Christian, and more than that, he wasn't really a good guy in general. I don't know why I had a crush on him. Don't worry, it was not John Bartlett. But I started dating him, and as I was dating him, I felt myself getting farther and farther away from God because he didn't love God, and he didn't want to go to church, and I started to feel lost. My relationship with God wasn't as strong as it used to be, or I felt like I didn't know God as well as I possibly could. And when it comes to faith, there's a lot of reasons why people might feel like they are lost. Some of us maybe don't even know who Jesus is yet. So you're thinking about God and you're like, yeah, but when I think about God, I feel kind of lost. How do I know him? How do I even find him? How do I even know that he's there? For some of us, we want to know Jesus, but we feel like maybe we've wandered far away, kind of like how I felt in junior high, by making maybe unwise decisions, and we're not sure that we can even turn back to him. Some of us know Jesus, but we're struggling to believe. Maybe we have some doubts about God and whether we can trust the Bible, whether we can trust who Jesus says that he is. And in all these situations, we can feel pretty lost sometimes. So I'm going to show you guys a picture from Google Maps, okay? Ever since I moved to PEI, Google Maps has been my saving grace. This is a Google Map image of the most important route in my life, which is the route from the church to the local Starbucks and back, so that when I come on youth nights, I am energized and fueled with my caffeine to serve all of you guys. And you've probably used Google Maps as well, right? If you drive, if you're walking, if you're a biker, you've used an app like this. And apps like this help us from getting lost by helping us avoid roadblocks, telling us exactly where to turn and when. My own personal Google Maps is a British guy, so he's always like, you can turn left on Meadowbank Road, and I just absolutely love that. They help us avoid danger, and they tell us how long it's going to take to get to our destination. And I know what you're thinking. Wouldn't it be so great if we had an app like this for life? An app that said, hey, watch out, danger, you're going in the wrong direction, or it's going to take you a little bit longer to get to that point than what you thought. Or an app that gave us a heads up when there might be a detour in the road. That would be so awesome. It would be even better if we had an app like this that would help us to know where we're at in our relationship with God. If we had an app that popped up and said, hey, God's just around the corner. You might feel like you're far away from him now, but don't worry. Or if we had an app that said, hey, God is like right there. Just open your Bible and you will find him as soon as you get there. If we had an app like Google Maps for life and for when we feel maybe spiritually lost, it would be really, really easy. Thankfully, God does not leave us in the dark. He has given us, as we're going to be talking about this month, stories about things that are lost and found that will help us to maybe find God, maybe for the first time, or maybe find God after we've wandered away for a little bit. Okay, so for the next 4 weeks, we are going to be in just one chapter of the Bible, just one, and it's Luke 15. And in this chapter of the Bible, Jesus talks a lot about things that get lost and then are found. And each story communicates a different and an important truth. So these stories are not actually historical stories. They didn't really happen. They're stories that Jesus made up. They're to try and prove a point. They're called parables. So today we are going to read a parable. I am reading from Luke 15 in the Bible. If you have a Bible with you, you might want to look this up to follow along. Luke 15, 1-2 is where I'm going to start. Just a couple verses. And this is what it says. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. People love to hear Jesus. Gathered around him all the time. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." So the Pharisees are not super happy, and the reason that this is because the Pharisees were the ones who were in charge of making sure that people were following God's law. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's a lot of laws to follow, and they helped make sure that people were kind of staying on the right track. But it was a bad thing at the same time, because what happened was the Pharisees didn't just help people keep the law, but they told people that the law was like the ultimate thing, and that if people didn't follow every single law, that God would not accept them. And that is not a great message to send. We know that God is all about loving other people, right? It's not about following all the rules. This story is a story that Jesus told about a lost sheep. A sheep that gets lost in the desert, actually. And I'm going to show you a picture right now of the Judean desert because I want you to see how easy it would be for a sheep to get lost in this kind of environment. So here's a picture of the desert. You see the rolling hills. You see that it's pretty big. This is no small desert to get lost in. So when you think about one little tiny sheep, think about the sheep that you maybe have seen around PEI getting lost in the desert. How hard would it be to find a little tiny white sheep in the midst of all that? This is what Jesus says about the lost sheep. This is Luke 15, 3-7. Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I found my lost sheep." And I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who don't need to repent. Now, we don't know how the sheep in this story wandered away from the shepherd. Maybe it got distracted and confused. Maybe it saw another sheep that it wanted to hang out with and it went that way and followed along. Maybe it was trying to run away. Either way, the sheep found itself far, right, from the safety and the security of the shepherd. And we can imagine how hard it would be to find one lost sheep in that huge desert filled with valleys and cliffs. It would take so much time, it would take so much effort, and it would take a lot of attention. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, if I was the shepherd, I don't know that I would spend that much time looking for one little sheep if I knew I had 99 more. The shepherd in Jesus' story did put the effort in. Even though he had 100 sheep to take care of, he noticed when one of them was missing. I imagine he knew that sheep's name too. And even though he knew it would be difficult, he searched for his lost sheep until he found it. He never gave up. When he found his lost sheep, Jesus didn't say that the shepherd yelled at it and said, "Hey, where have you been?" or "Why did you wander away?" He didn't make fun of it. He didn't punish it and say, "Go to your room because you wandered away." The shepherd lovingly carried it home. So, here's another time to pause for discussion. Let's talk about this. What does Jesus' story about the lost sheep tell us about what God is like? I just want to be really clear with you when we're talking about this story. Who are the sheep and who is the shepherd. So I'm going to read to you from Isaiah 53:6, and it says this: "We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all." So we are like the sheep that go astray, we wander away, but Jesus is like the good shepherd, the one who comes and who looks for us. Remember I told you that story a few minutes ago about dating that really rough guy in junior high and how I felt myself wandering away from God? Well, God actually put people in my life to speak into me to say like, hey, we don't think that guy is very good for you. My parents told me that, and I didn't always want to listen to my parents, but in this situation, they were definitely right. They were really worried about me. A lot of my friends told me that. My youth leaders noticed that, and they wanted to make sure that I was making wise choices, and it led me to, through kind of praying and thinking about it, I broke up with a guy, and I started feeling a lot closer to God, and I had a lot more Christian friends after that, and I ended up having like a really good rest of my time in junior high and high school because God helped me. Sometimes we're all like sheep, right, in this story, and we wander away from the safety of God, who is our shepherd. There's a lot of reasons why we might wander away, like we talked about before. Maybe we don't know that Jesus is the good shepherd in the first place. Maybe you're just out in the desert wandering, trying to find your way. Maybe we get distracted, kind of like I did. I got distracted by a guy, okay? You're trying to follow Jesus, but then you get distracted by something and you find yourself maybe feeling farther away. Maybe you're confused. There are a lot of people telling us in life what it is we should believe and why, and what the truth really is. So maybe you're confused today, and it's okay to have questions and uncertainties about following Jesus, but we don't want that to turn into a confusion that is so big that it leads us away from who Jesus is. Jesus is big enough to listen to our doubts and our questions. Or maybe we just decide that we need to walk away. Maybe we have turned our back completely on God, the good shepherd, and think that we can do things on our own. But if we do that, we're going to be like that lost sheep in the desert, just kind of wandering. We need a shepherd. We need a guide to help us on our way in life, someone to protect us, someone to show us what's good, someone to provide for us for our needs, right? Now, you and I are human. God knows that we are sheep who are prone to get lost. And this is what I want you to take away today as we come to a close, that even though there are billions and billions of people that God has created on earth, just like the shepherd leaves the 99 sheep to go look for the one, Jesus notices you. He notices you even if you don't think that you're important. And when we walk away, when we wander away from Jesus, he never stops looking for us. He puts in the time, he puts in the effort, he gives it the attention. He knows us by name because he made us, he loves us, and he notices when we start to wander. So if you're here tonight and you feel like you have wandered away and you're not sure if God sees you, Jesus notices you. If you feel like you are insignificant in this world and like nobody else in the world notices you and you're always getting passed over, well, guess what? Jesus notices you. If you're still trying to decide what you think about who God is and who Jesus is and what this whole Christianity thing is, Jesus notices you. What I want you to do right now is pause and take some time to think about this. What do you think or feel about these words? Jesus notices you. These are my hopes for you today. If you're not sure about what you think about Jesus, I pray that you are willing to give him a chance. I hope you leave today knowing that your good shepherd loves you and is so excited to welcome you. I hope if you feel lost right now that you will sense today that Jesus is actively looking for you. He wants to be with you. He's putting in that effort and that attention to be with you. And I hope that if you feel unseen and like nobody notices or cares about you, I hope that you leave today knowing that Jesus sees you and that he notices you. We're going to have one last discussion question, and then you can break right into kind of the additional questions, the small group time, the activity, if you'd like to do that first. What do you think your next step could be on your journey towards Jesus? Give that question some thought. And let's spend some more time in our small groups talking about this. And I will see you guys next week for another Teach Time on Lost and Found.